let's talk about the good stuff. It's Friday. It's Friday evening. Let's be happy. Let's be happy. It was a diverse panel, two Republican appointees, Democratic appointees. My question is, and I'm hoping you'll be optimistic. What should people take from the fact that you had one week in which some of these signature, I call them persecutions, I call them sort of random, arbitrary, and capricious persecutions. Um, Not in every case, but in a lot of cases. Uh, feel good about the courts this week?
Listen, all kidding aside,
Yeah,
I say we have to take our wins where we get them.
yeah,
The victories, you can deem them to be small or large, but we have to take our victories and our wins where we get them. I think, especially in our judiciary and our judicial system, I think that it is an understatement to say that the rule of law is constantly under attack. And so, when we have people that are stalwart defenders of the rule of law, you have to give them mad props for saying, not on my watch. And I think what we're having is, I think, Preet, a surgence or a resurgence of people that are saying, I have a lifetime appointment, Donald Trump, and I also have a co-equal branch of government within which I
right.
operate. So you can't take my job, and I'm going to do my job well. And I think that's what we're seeing happening here. I also think that people sometimes think it's okay to give someone a little bit of rope to hang themselves. And then when they do, then they can come and kind of pull the rope a little bit higher. So I think in this instance, some maybe judges, maybe some courts, maybe they were looking to kind of see, is he going to dial it back when he gets one adverse ruling after another, and seeing that there's zero judgment that's happening in this administration, and especially with Trump, they're like, you know what, then we're just going to lower the boom. And that's what you're seeing this week. You saw a lot of people in that wear black robes that said, not on my watch.
So one of our uh, feisty listeners, given that it's Friday at 6 p.m., as you and I were talking, it's
Yeah.
hard to catch the post because they come by, they pass the screen so quickly. Said something like, and I'm paraphrasing, as you and I have been celebrating, judicial decisions don't mean shit if they are not followed by the administration. Fair
Well, that's a
point,
point well
right?
taken. Yeah, yeah.
Fair point. Um, are they going to follow these?
Well, the answer is yeah, but
Yeah,
listen, I posted on YouTube earlier this week on my channel. I said, that some people need to start growing some balls though on the judiciary, because I do feel like you and I grew up at a time that even when we had philosophical disagreements with other people, etc., that we would still follow the court orders. And I think sanctions need to be imposed. I think that we need to actually see some type of teeth on on these orders. There has to be the enforcement component of it. There's got
yeah,
to be some punitive aspect to it, Preet, because in the absence of it, it's like, I mean, I hate to say this, but it's like disciplining a child or disciplining your animal. Like, you sometimes you actually have to deliver the boom, and I haven't seen the boom being lowered on the administration. But let me very quickly say this: the reason why I know that we're still operating within the confines of the rule of law is because Trump lawyers still go to court, and I don't say that to be cheeky. What I mean by that is we have a fucking problem when they stop going to court. If they say, you know what, we don't
yeah,
even need to go to court anymore, then we have a serious problem. But I think the
yeah,
fact that they're still participating in the process, albeit reluctantly and not so great, I think that it just means that we're still kind of holding strong that way.
yeah. I mean, I worry obviously about what that listener said, which is defiance of court orders, but the foundation, at least rhetorically, that's being laid for that, and predictably, every single time there's an adverse ruling that's based on the Constitution and common sense, but largely on the Constitution and the plain language of a statute. Stephen Miller, that guy, comes out to a podium and says crazy stuff about judges. He will just randomly call judges communists, even if the ruling has, even if you're trying to be intellectually honest, has nothing to do with Marx or Marxism. They talk about judges engaging in judicial coups, how judges should be impeached, which is all a kind of language that one would worry is laying a foundation for public support of defiance later. Am I overstating that?
No, you're not. And I also think you couple that with even some more kind of more subtle but insidious moves, like the Attorney General Pam Bondi announcing that they're not going to listen to the American Bar Association anymore when it comes to
Yeah.
judicial evaluations for fitness to be able to serve on the bench. And why? Because as I said yesterday, the Emile Bove nom to the Third Circuit Court of Appeals that's going to come from
Yeah.
Donald Trump, that they know that that Senate confirmation hearing, one of the things that was going to be said was how the American Bar Association does not think that Emile Bove is qualified to be able to sit on the federal appeals court bench, because not because of maybe his intellect, not because of his maybe experience, it's because he's a lackey to Donald Trump. I mean, there are things that you cannot have on the bench. And I think that's what they do. It's almost like you have to give them credit. They reasonably anticipate where the pitfalls are going to be or the quicksand's going to be, and they try to prepare the public for the negativity of it.
Look, on the law firm thing, I don't see how you defy the overwhelming victories for the law firms, because among the things that were being sought were a cancellation of security clearances. Those have been blocked in three of the four cases where there's a pending litigation, including in ours, or um, refusal to admit to federal buildings lawyers who are working for those firms. Those things are not going to happen. So, in some ways, at least with respect to that one of the three things that I mentioned at the outset of the conversation, th- those things are not going to be able to be defied really for pragmatic and other reasons. Um, do you think the administration is going to appeal those losses? That's something obviously that we're all very interested in thinking about and in watching. But do you think on some of these things, you could pick any one of these issues, the administration is going to say, you know what, it's a losing proposition for us. Maybe we'll get bad law if we pursue it, and
No,
we made our point, and we're just done. Any
never.
chance of that? No,
Never, never. That it's a war of attrition, isn't it? I mean, it's just
I guess.
it's like I've always said the federal government, and you would know this, Preet. It's the biggest law firm in the world. It's the most powerful law firm in the world. Doesn't mean they always make the smartest decisions, but if you have the biggest law firm in the world, why would you not appeal it? You know, you roll the dice. You may get an affirmation that the trial court was right, but you may get, maybe a two to
Yeah,
one panel that says, you know what, there was a screw up here or there, a la the appeals court on the tariffs issue, right? I mean, my point is, you, if you're the Trump administration, you literally lose nothing by taking an appeal. Furthermore, even if you end up getting an adverse ruling, it doesn't mean that you're not going to go ahead and still do something stupid and unconstitutional, right? So I just don't think I share everybody's collective frustration, Preet, in our chat and through conversations I've had otherwise, which is what can be done? So I guess I'll flip the question to you.
uh-oh.
What can be done to compel compliance? I think that the contempt process that's been done by Paula Zinnis, Judge
Yeah,
James Boasberg, and others, that there is a method to that madness. I just think people, and I share your impatience that it just, there needs to be something done with the non-compliance. So my question to you is, what can be done?
yeah. No, I think you're going to have to start getting judges to more than flirt with contempt and actually
Yeah, they got to
impose
do it.
contempt. You got to do it. Um, so that's my answer to that. That's my answer to that question. Very short answer. But relatedly, you and I were talking before the rest of America joined us about Leonard Leo. And Leonard Leo is one of the leading figures from the Federal Society who has helped to populate particularly the circuit courts and the Supreme Court with diehard conservatives that are not Trumpian enough for Trump and Stephen Miller and his supporters. And Trump went on a crazy tirade. Let me just sort of say before you give your reaction, it is insane that you have a president who has obviously the presidency, whose people and supporters claim the unitary executive theory, saying that all power is vested in him. And he has that. And he won the popular vote and claims a huge mandate. He also has the House. He also has the Senate. He doesn't have the whole judiciary, but he has a lot of it because there are a lot of his appointees. He will have a second term in which to make more appointees. He appointed a third of the Supreme Court, and even that's not good enough for him. And he's attacking
Yeah.
Leonard Leo. What how do you think that plays out?
I mean, there's that old adage, don't bite the hand that feeds you. And I
Right. So
think
so why is he biting? Who's biting whose hand? I'm
Donald
confused.
Donald Trump fighting
Is
Leonard
Leonard
Leo's hand.
Leo biting Donald Trump's hand?
I
No.
mean, the image is pretty gross, but I mean, the thing is that he owes a lot to Leonard Leo, and I think whether you respect the Leonard Leo Federalist Society conservative kind of squad, um,
Uh-huh.
I think to ignore their influence is a foolhardy mission for Donald Trump. I also think that one, I just want to push back for a second. I know that you were just kind of setting the table for this
Yeah.
conversation, but it most certainly was not a mandate. He doesn't have a mandate.
Yeah.
But you're right, he does have control of the Senate and the House, and he does have control of the Oval, and that's a
Yeah.
trifecta right there. But I do think that the Leonard Leo thing is such a quintessential example of how absolutely off his fucking rocker is Donald Trump. Because for him to not
Yeah.
attribute to Leonard Leo and the Federalist Society credit where credit is due, they single handedly formed and kind of just created the monster that we have on several of the benches right now, including SCOTUS. So I think that, again, you have to be careful about biting the hand that feeds you. I think Donald Trump is relishing being able to just write what he wants on Truth Social and do what he wants on Truth Social. But I think the problem for him is people are taking notes and keeping score. You and I both know that. The small, petty people in the world, like Leonard Leo and others, they're keeping tabs on what's happening with him.
So what does that mean? Does that mean they turn on him? So you have a guy like Leonard Leo and others who the president on the president's side, right? Look, a lot of conservatives voted for Donald Trump, holding their nose because he gave them the judges that they wanted, and more importantly, the justices on the Supreme Court that they wanted. So now, fast forward a year, and there's a vacancy on the court. Given this drama, as they say, um, what happens? Do all the Republicans and the Trumpists come together again and do kumbaya and find another Amy Coney Barrett, or try to resurrect a Scalia? I mean, I haven't thought about it much. Maybe you have. I'm not sure. Just given the sort of infighting now, how that plays out in the future, and is that a good thing for people who don't want those kinds of justices?
So I want to be very clear. The dark money flow is not just from
Yeah,
Letter Leo and the Federalist Society
yeah,
to Donald Trump. It's not just to the presidency. It is a very kind of insidious and pervasive, almost with tentacles, kind of dark energy, right? And the reason why I say that is it's an incredibly short-sighted thing for Donald Trump, and it sends the message of his level of selfishness that he's only doing shit that benefits him in the immediate sense. Why? Because when you cut that tie with the Federalist Society, I think you're impacting future Republican endeavors. You're impacting future Republican presidents,
yeah.
future Republican senators. I think that you are directly having a negative influence on those paths because again, the Federalist Society is not limited to just the presidency. And so I think when you just kind of crap all over Leonard Leo and the Federalist Society, and listen, I am not giving a full-throated defense of those people. I'm just saying it's just more evidence that Trump only does what benefits Trump. And I think there does come a point, a tipping point, where any conservative Republican is going to say, this doesn't benefit me. For him to do that, it doesn't benefit me.
Yeah, but if at the end of the day, the Leonard Leos and their supporters and constituencies get what they want, for example, the biggest get that they got ever in modern history was the reversal of Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
And even if Donald Trump is an asshole or a piece of shit, doesn't appreciate them and castigates them on Truth Social, they got the reversal of Roe v. Wade. So as I think about it more, don't they just grin and bear it and bite their lip to try to
No,
get other reversals along those lines in the future?
no,
No?
because I think you're seeing stuff like, for example, again, not an advocate for her, but I think you see people like Amy Coney Barrett. That's not doing what maybe the uber conservative Republicans want her to do. I think for example, with Amy Coney Barrett, I think she was almost like a one issue SCOTUS, right? One issue justice. I think that there were things like abortion that were really important to her. And I think to conservative Republicans, they thought we need to get somebody like her on the bench to be able to do this. But we've seen her very carefully kind of stake her claim to more centrist ground in some pretty big cases, Preet. And
Yeah.
I think that's when you see a little bit of a kind of breaking off from kind of the pack. I think you
Right,
see
but
this peeling off from the pack, and that's why I don't think that you're going to see total and abject compliance from them just because they overturned Roe v. Wade.
right. My prediction is no more Amy Coney Barretts are going to be on the court. That
What more
the big,
Clarence Thomases? You mean?
yeah. I mean, if there are any, are there any? I don't know. I mean, we've been talking about other
I
Clarence
don't know.
Thomases
Why
for a long
why don't
time.
we
We have an
ask
Alito.
why don't we ask Harlan Crow? Maybe he'll be able to tell us if there are any more.
Does Harlan Crow have a $400 million plane? Oh no, that's the Qatar
Oh
plane.
no, that's Donald Trump.
I'm so
He has the
confused.
Qatari plane,
Who has which plane?
the one that's
How
parked
big
in
is your
Palm
plane?
Beach.
What kind of plane do you drive, Katie Phang?
I don't have one from the terrorists, the terrorist finance, the ones who finance
I got
terrorists. Those
I
people, I
got
don't have that
Delta.
one. Sorry.
I got American Airlines. I'm an American Airlines guy. Although I was going to say something that I shouldn't have said about Newark Airport, but we don't do Newark Airport so much anymore. I'd like to be
I
more
wouldn't either.
confident of Newark Airport. Are we
No,
going to get
I
sued
wouldn't do that either.
are we going to get sued by EWR now?
It's not defamatory if it's true.
Right. I missed defamation class. Thank you for reminding.
We
All
all
right,
we all went to defamation school over the last few
so
years.
here's my so
Anyway,
here's so we're up on our time because everyone I know you got to go out and hit the clubs, Katie.
that's me.
Um, uh, how do we do? Is this a good time? I want to hear from the folks. We have a
I
good
don't.
size audience. Is this a good
We have a
time to do
very good audience, but I don't know.
a live
Thank you both. Well, yeah, we
6
thank you
p.m.
both.
on a Friday?
I don't know. I don't see people. Are we doing okay
I've
at
done
6
the
p.m. on a
morning.
Friday?
I don't know. Like, we get a lot of people sometimes in the morning on a weekday, which to me means that people are not doing their jobs.
Oh, people say it's good. Yes, I see. Yes, I see. Thanks. Yes.
Well,
Oh, look at
but
that.
you know what?
Yeah.
But this is they're on. Like, I realize this is like a terribly unscientific poll. Hey, people who are on, would you
Is
come
this a
on?
good time?
Is this a good time for you? Oh yeah. Oh wow. It's some kind of confirmation bias. In any event, last thing, anything you want to get off your chest beyond what you already got off your chest, and then we'll let these fine folks go to the clubs.
Yeah, they need to go clubbing. No, you know what? Look, you can call me naive, Preet, which you have before. Just let the record
I have
reflect, people.
not
Preet has
ever
called
done
me
that.
naive
I have
before.
not. I call you very sophisticated.
Preet and I go way back. Be naive, but I'm still a big believer that right is might.
Right.
And I really believe it. And by the way, I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass, but like, you're an example of somebody who stood tall and did the right thing, Preet. And
Well,
I think that there are more Preets out there. I think that there are more of us than there are of them. And I think that when we take to heart this idea that we are going to be on the right side of history, when the time comes, I believe that all of this is a part of the struggle, and that the wins that you just mentioned this week. I, I wasn't trying to be dismissive. I think that we need to manage people's expectations, but I also think that we need to acknowledge that along the way we have these wins, and that
yeah.
we can't be so jaded as to believe that these institutions and these norms, that they still don't have value, is what I'm trying to say. And
Yeah, yeah,
maybe
yeah.
I'm not being articulate enough, but I
No,
still
no, you
believe in
are.
them,
You are. You
and
are.
I love the idea of just reminding people that I know I know the fight is gone when you're gone, or I'm gone, or Joyce is gone, or like when we're not there fighting this anymore, then I know that stuff is gone totally south. But because we're still here doing this, it means to me that right is still
Yeah,
might.
I like that because might is right is bad. And so the final thing I would say is on the positive side, it's really good when the right side, the righteous side, has a victory in court or otherwise, and there's a benefit to that because it causes more people to stand up. I will also say, and this might be more, more controversial with respect to some of my friends at places that did bend the knee.
Mm,
And there's an argument to be made. I'm not necessarily making it, but I kind of am making it. That if there is a cost to bending the knee, that's ultimately good, right? And it'll cause more people to have a spine. So, more spine, less bending of the knee, good for democracy, good for America, good for everybody. On
good,
that
go,
note,
yay! Thank you, Wilmer Hale. Tell your friends at Wilmer Hale we're grateful for them.
I'm grateful for them. I'm grateful for them every day. I'm grateful for you, Katie Fang. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let's do this again. Thanks
We
everybody for
will.
joining.
Thanks,
Okay.
everybody. Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.